So I just recently played the Voice of Cards demo on Switch. This was something that was announced in the Nintendo Direct that we just had a few days ago. It was a pretty interesting experience, so let's go ahead and talk about it. It was a fun time. The demo gave just enough to make it an enjoyable experience, but also teased me about content I'd only get to play in the main game, making me possibly want to get it depending on the price. I'll go ahead and warn you, this does not seem to be the game for people who mainly play games for cinematic cutscenes, or people who like to leave very little to the imagination. I'll explain more here in a bit, but let's go ahead and talk about combat first. Combat at first seemed like it was nothing out of the ordinary. However, what's interesting is that each character seemed like they were going to have 4 action choices, which will include a basic attack. Seems like you'll learn plenty of new skills and be able to switch them around as needed in the menu. Some of the skills required a dice roll, making it so you couldn't be too reliant on them in case of a bad roll. Magic and special skills required gems, which are stored in the left-hand corner, and you get a new one every turn, but one of the characters can also use a skill to add a gem. You can only have a maximum of 10 gems, and the gems seem to not carry over from battle to battle, so you didn't have to save them at all. Normally, I don't care for combat systems that make you share MP, but they did it right, and I feel like it's going to be very well balanced. The only negative thing about the combat was that each card had their HP, attack, and defense stats at the bottom, so when targeting monsters, I covered that information up. I did, however, like that it was there for the world to see so that you can know exactly what you're dealing with and how long until the enemy is dead, so you can plan out your attacks accordingly. What was most interesting is the way that the story is told. Instead of watching a scene, you read or hear what happened on cards. It's very D&D-like in that sense. The cards move around to help guide your imagination a little bit, but the story is told primarily through text. You read things like Berwin lifts the woman onto his back instead of actually watching it happen. This is what I meant when I said that this is not for people who like to watch things play out. You're going to need to use your imagination. The game was also narrated solely by one person. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about playing the entire game with one voice, but I have some mixed feelings about this. On one hand, he was a good narrator. On the other, his voices for battles were kinda lame.
As demanding a reward would go against the tenets of the Ivory Order, you hold your tongue. The Queen, however, has already said she will reward the Fellowship with whatever they desire. It seems the royal treasure is just that important.
Not only do events happen on cards, the entire world is made up of cards. It was basically a virtual tabletop RPG. You traverse the map by moving a little chess-like piece across landscape cards, and when you get next to cards that are face down, the neighboring cards would then get flipped face up, revealing if it's more land to traverse, an edge of a mountain, or perhaps a treasure chest. This was fun, but it made things very slow. There are apparently side stories that you can do with just about anyone, and that includes monsters. After helping or talking to the NPCs, you unlock their story, and I assume I unlocked specific monster stories when I beat enough of that monster in combat. I have no idea what these are going to be like or how long they're going to be. That was about all that I could get from the demo that was out of the ordinary for regular RPGs. All the characters still had equipment and all that stuff, so I wasn't really going to talk about that. I think I'm going to most likely grab this when it comes out. The experience was definitely intriguing enough. If you haven't played it yet, there is a demo available on Nintendo Switch's eShop at the time of this video's release. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and all that good stuff. Have a wonderful day, evening, night, wherever and whatever you are, and as always, stay crazy.